This is the VSiN Morning Line on VSiN, the sports betting network.
Good morning, happy Monday, and welcome into the VSiN Morning Line. Thank you for getting your work week started here with us. I'm Grace Remington with Michael Lombardi and Harrison Sanford, ready to recap another fantastic week of NFL and college football action. Harrison's got his smelling salts. Michael had his coffee. I got my hair up, I guess. So we're all really excited to be here. The Chiefs, Falcons, another close ending for this Kansas City team. And they are now one of the NFL's 4 3-0 teams, but it really doesn't feel like that. Michael, what stood out to you about last night's game?
Well, I mean, look, the fact that the Falcons just struggle to make those explosive plays and they just messed up the red zone again. I mean, they've got an opportunity on 3rd and 1, they can't convert. And then on 4th and 1, they run a sweep, which, looked like the Packers sweep with Vince Lombardi. I didn't understand it. They ran sideways to get 1 yard and they lost 3 yards. And so to me, I don't think Kirk Cousins right. I watched the tape again this morning. I didn't think he looked right. I don't think he throws the ball with great velocity. And this offense, which is supposed to be so high powered, I mean, they made one explosive play in the game, but for the most part, it's dink and dunk, and they've got to put 8 or 9 really good plays together to get scores. And then defensively, Patrick Mahomes still doesn't play his A game, and he was good enough to beat them. So to me, look, I think that Atlanta, which was really interesting, Harrison, they went into the game. Adam Schefter put out a tweet early Sunday morning and said, this is the biggest game in a home game in Atlanta Falcon history since 2016. Arthur Blank's going into the Hall of Fame. He put himself in naturally. Why wouldn't you if you own the team? And then, and then we've got them to come out. Like, I don't understand their front office. They put all this pressure on themselves to win a game when it's week 3 of the season. Like, what's the big deal? And now they're 1-2, Harrison.
Yeah, as it pertains to the Atlanta Falcons, I wouldn't feel too bad if I'm a Falcon fan. I thought they put together a decent effort last night. Obviously, you would love the win, but they were relatively in that game, and there were just some questionable calls. We could talk about that 4th and 1, 4th and 2 at the end of the game, trying to go with the outside run. Hell of a play there by Nick Bolton. But you also have to factor in as well, they had those injuries on the offensive line. And as it pertains to even when I was looking at the Chiefs, I'm saying, like, wow, they potentially could lose this game. But at the end of the day, Steve Spagnuolo deserves a lot of credit as well because of those injuries on the offensive line. He was able to get to Kirk Cousins on a routine basis. 10 quarterback hits last night generated by the Chiefs. And because of that, they were able to come out with the win. But as a Falcon, if I was a Falcon fan, I wouldn't feel too discouraged by it. And as it pertains to the Chiefs, they just keep finding ways to win one way or another. It doesn't matter who's in or out the lineup. They find a way to win.
Yeah, credit to Steve Spags pressuring Kirk Cousins on 42% of his dropbacks and holding that Falcons run game and Bijan Robinson to just 3.3 yards a carry. On the other side, we were nervous about the Chiefs run game, what it would look like without Isaiah Pacheco, but Carson Steele had himself a game, 17 carries on 72 yards. Samaje Perine wasn't bad either in a backup role. And guys, how cool was that, seeing Carson Steele's sister's wedding? They were showing his game up on the big screen. Of course, as an undrafted rookie, he didn't think a year ago that he would be here on Sunday Night Football. So kind of a busy weekend for him. But I thought that was pretty cool.
But that's why you don't schedule a fall wedding regardless. You got to keep the hope alive. We talked about this before. A fall wedding, you're destined for disaster.
Yeah, why would he thought
I know, in September, yeah. If you're a football family, you should know.
He should have thought he should have had enough confidence in himself to be on a practice squad. But Harrison, I don't know how, if you're Atlanta, you could take any solace out of that loss. I really don't. I mean, you build it up to be the biggest game of the year. Now you've got New Orleans coming to town. You couldn't beat Pittsburgh at home, right? This is supposed to be your Super Bowl year. You've invested everything in the team. You mentioned they have no depth. Well, they have no depth because they've never really drafted very well. That's why their offensive line has no depth. And the reality of it is where are they going? Like, where are they going?
But
they lost 2 home games. I mean, that fan base is so fickle, though, Harrison. They're never going to.
That's true.
They got to see something exciting, and then they lost 2 home games.
Yes, as a man who used to live in Georgia, I understand they could definitely be fickle. The one team that really matters in the state of Georgia, the Bulldogs. But with that being said, you got to factor in the opponent. It was the Kansas City Chiefs. They were right in the game.
If you're a Super Bowl contender, you got to beat that team. I mean, it's not like to me, you don't. And there's no prizes for second place. I mean, if you've got these aspirations, I don't think they played their A game. Like, I don't even think Kansas City's going to be a way different team in December than they are right now. I mean, they couldn't tackle. They gave up, here's a guy that didn't even think he was going to be in an NFL. He was planning on going to a wedding, and he gets 75 yards rushing against him. What does that tell you? I mean, what does that tell you? We can criticize him for planning a fall wedding, but he thought so little of his talent, he didn't even think he was going to be on the field, yet he's running up and down the field. I'm not passing the buck here, because to me, this is a franchise that went all in this year, and now they're 1-2 with 2 home losses. Like, where are we going?
We bemoaned the fact that Drake London wasn't a good wide receiver, or it's not that great of a wide receiver.
You can't say he's you can't say he's some way, Harrison.
Number one receiver did not come out of my mouth, but some way, somehow, they were able to get him open last night. They were able to activate Kyle Pitts. They shut down with Jesse Bates. They were able to shut down Travis Kelce. They lost the game. They lost the game.
I mean, I don't get it.
They lost the game.
The object is to win. It isn't to. I know you're into fantasy and all that, but I mean, you look at the numbers. They couldn't make a play when they needed to make a play. I mean, Kirk Cousins is lobbing softballs out there in the red zone, trying to throw it. Now, I thought that was pass interference. There's no doubt, but I mean,
100% pass. 100% pass interference
on Monday. I think you're being overly generous on Monday. Grace, help this man out. He's being too nice.
Hey, listen, they were the Super Bowl champions. This wasn't some middling playoff team last year. It was the Super Bowl champions in your building.
To make a statement.
And you could have won. Yes, of course. But again, this is the Atlanta Falcons we're talking about here. This is not some perennial playoff team. If they're a team on the uprise, I thought it was a fair performance. If they get the pass interference, we're very well talking about the Falcons being 2-1.
No, because they would have had to stop Mahomes from scoring, which wouldn't have happened. Okay, that wouldn't have happened. But they were able to do that the previous possession before. They forced the 3-and-out on Patrick Mahomes. So it's not out. I'm just saying it's not out the realm of possibility that they could actually be a good playoff team, particularly when you saw what else happened in the NFC South yesterday. They've lost 2 home games already.
They have.
They have 3 division games coming up next, too.
And frankly, they should. You could make the case. The fact, if it wasn't for Nick Sirianni, and we could go in a whole chapter on Nick Sirianni's performance in New Orleans.
We could.
If it wasn't for Nick Sirianni's stupidity, they're 0-3. Let's just put that out there, okay? Now, Nick doubled down. Let's not confuse it. Nick doubled down. At halftime, if you read Twitter at halftime, Nick Sirianni was gone. I mean, people were looking for Belichick's phone number on Twitter at halftime with some of his decisions he made, only to be upseated by Mike McDaniel's ridiculous decisions in the Seattle game. But we'll get to that. But the reality of it is this is, to me, this team is closer to 0-3 than anything. I mean, they acted like they beat Philly last week. No, Philly lost the game. You didn't beat Philly. You didn't beat them. Like, Philly lost the game. There was a 90. Grace, you got the numbers. It was a 99% percentage to win the game.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, they had a less than 1% chance to win that one.
You're being overly kind. That's all I'm saying.
I'm looking at the opponent, the Super Bowl champion. I'm looking at the fact they took it down to a 4th and 1, 4th and 2. There was a PI. And that clear PI, not an undebatable PI, in the end zone with Kyle Pitts. And I'm also looking at the fact that previous to that possession, they were actually able to take out Mahomes on a 3-and-out. When Mahomes could have sealed the game beforehand, but he couldn't because they stopped him on that drive. They had an opportunity. They got the stop, and they had the opportunity. Yes. Did they win the game? Of course they didn't. But it's not out the realm of possibility. It was right there for the taking. They had multiple injuries on the offensive line, and Kirk Cousins got hit 10 times. And they lost by what? They could have easily won the game.
I don't know.
Sounds like a team that could compete for the NFC South to me.
I don't think they can easily win any game. I think
if
Carolina,
that's the bar, competing for the South, then fine.
That's it.
I mean, this is a team that everybody bet they're over. They bet. Well, you're being overly kind. They bet they're over. I mean, like, seriously, there's no chance. I mean,
well, it wasn't me betting they're over, though. I'll say that.
Well, I'm glad to hear that. That makes me feel better. It wasn't certainly me either. I never bought that. The reality of it is at some point, great teams make a statement. Great players make great plays when they need them. You can blame the referees. We could do all that. But when the game is on the line, when the Rams needed to score 10 points in the fourth quarter, Matthew Stafford made some incredible throws. They were a mash unit, and they come back and beat the 49ers. Now, look, Ronnie Bell drops a pass. They miss a kick, all that. That goes into it. But that's football. That's football. But when you're playing home, Sunday night, you got Chris, you got Mike Tirico, you got everybody's coming to see you. And you come out like that? Come on. And the betting public bet line moved from 4.5. It closed at 3 at kick. Come on. People got gullible.
Gullible on a Monday morning. All right, coming up next, CJ Gardner-Johnson, believe it or not, is more heated than Michael Lombardi and Harrison Sanford. We're going to hear from him after the Eagles win last night. We also have a few guests coming up on the show. Carl Johnson coming up at 7:45 Eastern, Rich Gannon 8:30 Eastern, and Chris Sims. You're watching the VSiN Morning Line.
Time. There's nothing more valuable. It's what drives everyone to make the most of every moment. We celebrate living large in the now. In a city where time disappears, we create experiences that electrify the soul and memories that will last forever. We go big, we go all night, and here, everyone is invited. So get loose and get loud.
This is Circa. You'll have the time of your life.
Coming up Monday on Follow the Money, a week left in the regular season in baseball. We recap a wild weekend, and how about a doubleheader Monday Night Football? Follow the Money weekdays 4 to 7 Eastern on VSiN, the Sports Betting Network.
Want to see who at VSiN is on a hot streak? Go to VSiN.com/picks to see all the selections and weekly leaderboard of VSiN hosts, writers, and guests. Become a VSiN Pro subscriber and get every pick sent to your inbox daily. Just head to VSiN.com/pro.
So, Paulie, have you had a chance to read the VSiN Daily yet?
Yeah, came in at 3 a.m. What's Bill doing up that late?
Well, rumor has it starts off with a 12-hour meditation session.
Then he just pours himself over film and live TV, really focusing and taking it all in. Bill's in with the biggest insiders, talking trade secrets, strategies, the whole nine, absorbing the info.
And then and only then can the writing process begin.
In Las Vegas, Bill's late night becomes your early morning. Wake up to the very latest betting insights in your inbox with the VSiN Daily. Sign up for free at vsin.com/newsletter.
watching the VSiN Morning Line right here on VSiN, the Sports Betting Network.
Welcome back into the VSiN Morning Line as we recap another crazy weekend of NFL football. Guys, 2 weeks in a row, I'm back in the Eagles. Last week, it didn't work out for me. This week, whew, it was close. It was close, but we got it. And once again, it was due to Nick Sirianni's decisions, which, I could argue either way for. But, Michael, I know you feel a certain way about these fourth down conversions, so I'm going to go to you first. Tell me how you feel.
Well, I mean, here's the way I look at it. Andy Reid has won how many Super Bowls now? Do you ever see him hesitate on 4th and 1 to send a field goal team out there? Like, there's never a hesitation. Like, I get sometimes he goes for it, maybe, but like in that game in Atlanta early in the game last night, he sent that team out. Nick Sirianni goes for it on 4th down. Then he tries a 60-yard field goal. Like, what are we doing? Like, what are we doing? Like, I don't understand it. You try a 60-yard field goal. You give them field position. You basically give them a chance to win the game. Like, these coaches have no regard for field position whatsoever. Shane Steichen did it again yesterday. And so, to me, look, they're fortunate. They scored 15 points in the fourth quarter. They made 2 plays. Saquon's big run, which was great. And then they ran the pick play to Dallas Goedert. They picked off the Saints guy. But you never thought they were going to win that game there. I think, to me, Sirianni's decisions were horrendous. Now, he's got the backing of the Eagles from an analytical standpoint. They seem to support it. But I think if you span the crowd, Eagle fans are screaming. Like, what are we doing? You can read their lips in the stands. Now, I know you're in the softer, gentler framework today, Harrison, so I'm sure that it wasn't bad for you. I'm sure you enjoyed it. I'm sure that was kind of good for you. For me, being the grumpy old guy I am, I think it's just stupidity. I think it's coaching malpractice at the highest level. Of course, he's got the analytical community saying it's the right thing to do, although we don't know who's saying it's the right thing to do. We don't know who that person is. It's Alice in Wonderland. It's down some rabbit hole.
Yeah, no, I'll be soft on the Atlanta Falcons, but I'll definitely turn up the heat a little bit for the Philadelphia Eagles. And while you pointed out Nick Sirianni, what he's doing, yes, could be considered coaching malpractice. But we can't let Jalen Hurts off the hook either. Jalen Hurts is a turnover machine. Most turnovers in the NFL since 2023. He's also had 7 straight games, I believe, with the turnover. He had the fumble that was bad. He also had the interception in the end zone when he was trying to target Devontae Smith. That was bad as well. So we can't just circle our focus on Sirianni. Jalen Hurts, who's getting paid to be a premier quarterback in this league, is not playing like a premier quarterback in this league either. So we can't necessarily take him out of the mix here. Jalen Hurts deserves to take some accountability as well. And it might even get worse, Michael, because we know A.J. Brown is probably going to be out maybe for a couple more weeks here, probably till their bye week. And then we saw Devontae Smith get knocked out of the game yesterday. So this target tree is going to get real concentrated potentially, and that could potentially lead to more Jalen Hurts turnovers. He left, because he threw that interception, he also cost them at least a field goal as well. We cannot just put it all on Sirianni. They got the win, but there's definitely some fingers that need to be pointed.
Oh, look, I'm not going on. I think Hurts has played poorly. I don't think there's any question about that. I think he's careless with the football. I think the best thing they can do is run. Now, look, they played with 2 backup offensive linemen in there yesterday, much like the Falcons, who we give a pass to. But the Eagles won that game with 2 backup linemen in the game, especially on the right side of their offensive line. To me, I agree with you, Harrison. Jalen Hurts isn't playing well. He's careless with the football. He's not comfortable. He's the most protected quarterback in the league in terms of time to throw the football, and yet he doesn't seem to really make the throws he need to make. Now, he did it. My question with Sirianni is, look, they're 54% going for it on 4th down. Like, he does it as if it's automatic. He does, at 54%, that's not good numbers. Right, Grace? I don't see, to me, I think every situation on 4th down should be analyzed by the situation and the flow of the game. That's all I keep saying, and I don't think, Grace, they understand that.
Okay, while I agree with you, yeah, should be analyzed on a case-by-case basis, right? We keep saying common sense, flow of the game, but I do have this 4th down decision bot pulled up again, just because I think it's curious to know what the coaches are seeing in these spots. And I should have said this last time. This is a computer model built by Ben Baldwin, who is kind of a known statistician in the NFL sphere, but basically your win percent. This is the this second quarter, the 4th and 1, where they skipped the field goal points. So your win percentage, if you go for it, is 43%. Your win percentage, if you fail to convert that 4th down, is 31%. Your win percentage, if you kick the field goal, is 30%. So whether you
how is that even possible, Grace? How is that even possible? How is that even possible? Like, you're quoting that like it's gospel. How is that even possible? You're turning down gospel points and it lowers your percentage to win. And you're telling me I've got 35 years in the National Football League. I've won 3 Super Bowls, and you're telling me you go tell Belichick that freaking line. You go tell him this. You lose if you kick 3 points. You're really going to lower your percentage to win. Get me out of here. Save me. Please, somebody save me from this stupidity. We're quoting this on a show. Are you kidding me? That number, I don't give a crap who that guy is. I want to know how that is even possible.
Look, I'm not saying it's right or wrong. I just want to know, we all want to know, what do the coaches see in this situation? So I'm simply presenting you. That's what they see.
They don't
Michael,
see that.
You know
see that, they're seeing lies. That's Frank, as Frank Pantangeli said in The Godfathers, it's lies, lies, lies. That's what they're seeing. Look, Andy Reid would have kicked it. Bill Belichick would have kicked it. Are they seeing that? Like, you're really going to sit here and tell me that if I kick this field goal, it lowers my percentage to win, and that makes sense? That makes sense? Seriously, the last I checked, since I was a little kid, the object was to get as many points as you could possibly get to win the game. Of course, if you don't, we'll make excuses for you. But the reality of it is how in the hell look, if that number came back 41%, 30, I could get it. But you're lowering your chances by 11% by kicking the field goal? And then your chances of making it are 54%. It's insanity. It's just total insanity.
Hey, Michael, you know what one famous American poet once said? His name is Jay-Z. He said, "Men lie, women lie, but numbers don't."
Yeah, okay, you got that. All right, let's go, Jay-Z. Here we go. You know what Aristotle said? You don't want to know what Aristotle said? All right, I'll give you. You want to start some Jay-Z crap? I'll give you some Aristotle crap. Aristotle said simply this: if I drop this pen on the ground 20 years from now, it'll drop on the ground. That's a consistent. You can analyze that. But what you can analyze, what analytics doesn't play a part of, is when the situations are always variable, when everything is changing, when there's no consistency in it. Don't listen to me. I'll get Roger Martin, the former head of the School of University of Toronto Business. I'll get him on this show. He'll talk to you about it all you want. And he understands it. It's all it is a way to justify stupidity. That's what it is.
Hey, I'm not debating you. I was just trying to egg you on. I just wanted to see you get more upset.
There's no egging me on. When somebody on our show says that it's 30% a better chance to win if I kick a field goal, I mean, you got to believe I'm going to go absolutely insane. Like Sirianni, ask all those Eagle fans if they thought it was the object is to score points. Look, I get it. Sometimes if it's 4th and inches and you got the tush push, I'm all for you, big boy. But you got one that, and then you try a 60-yard field goal? Come on.
They faded actually, what surprised me, they faded the tush push yesterday. They actually had the opportunity to do it. They tried to do something unique, and it was like an outside run with Saquon Barkley, and it actually wasn't successful. I actually got caught off guard by that. They tried the tush push yesterday, too.
Look, you guys can talk about it. You know, to me, it's the most ridiculous thing. I think the guy is a disaster in game management. He's going to cost his team. He already cost his team. You know, he cost them last week. He should have cost them this week. I'm Dennis Allen sitting there, you know, pissed off because he played one rat and he didn't cut the route, and they didn't cut the route. And then Goddard went 68 yards. So I'm sure that's the case. But Derek Carr, let's be honest, Derek Carr turned into the Derek Carr we all know and love yesterday. As soon as Jalen Carter showed up in the game and started hitting them, that was a problem. And then all that sane offense went away. And I know we have a clip about C.J. Mosley talking about the greatness of the Eagles secondary. I don't get it.
Life
Yeah,
of an
we don't
Eagles
even need
head
the-
coach.
Go ahead. I
Grace,
was going to
isn't
say
this
we don't
the
even
life
need the
of a-
C.J. Gardner-Johnson saw anymore because Michael just gave us the rant of the weekend.
Yeah. Yeah.
I mean, you set me up. I mean, it's unbelievable. It's just, it makes no logical sense.
This is the absolute life of a Philadelphia head coach or star player. You win. You won the game, and it sounds like you lost when you talk to people.
Because stupidity prevails.
I can't. Okay. All right. No more math talk on this show. Coming up next, underdogs continue to rule the day. Why are they cashing at such a high rate? We're going to look at some of the biggest upsets this weekend and check in on Circa Survivor. You're listening to the VSiN Morning Line.
VSiN's got you covered for the start of the season with our football special. For $175, you'll get access to everything VSiN has to offer. With VSiN Pro, you'll receive daily picks straight to your inbox, detailed analysis on every game, and exclusive data like our betting splits to help you become a sharper bettor. Get all of this for just $175 through the Super Bowl. Or try a monthly subscription and get your first 30 days for only $9.99. Don't miss out on this offer. Sign up now at VSiN.com/subscribe.
Don't wait until fall to start betting the NFL. Get a jump start now with the VSiN NFL Betting Guide and get prepared for this NFL season like never before. The guide has in-depth breakdowns for all 32 teams, best bets from our VSiN experts, playoff predictions, award market previews, and more. The guide is out now, and the only way to get it is to be a VSiN Pro subscriber. Head to VSiN.com/pro to sign up and join the Sports Betting Network.
This is VSiN, the Sports Betting Network.
watching the VSiN Morning Line right here on VSiN, the Sports Betting Network.
Welcome back into the VSiN Morning Line. I'm Grace Remington with Michael Lombardi and Harrison Sanford. Thanks for getting your day started with us. Well, we thought week 2 was a week for the underdogs. Turned out that was not a fluke, as we saw more of the same thing in week 3. Underdogs of 5 or more points went 4-0 straight up and against the spread on Sunday. They are now 13-2 against the spread this season with 9 straight up wins. Of course, that is just obliterating the field in the Circa Survivor contest. The day started with 3,874 entries. 2,244 entries were eliminated. So only 11.5% of the initial field remains in the contest.
It's a travesty.
I'm still alive, guys. I am one of the
so
elite
hard.
11%. Thanks to the JETS Jets. Anyways, guys, plenty of upsets to get into, but Michael, want to get your thoughts first. Why do you think underdogs are cashing at such a high rate this season?
I think it's really hard to use your off-season power rankings and then have it apply to in-season. I think you have to really make some really serious adjustments, because some teams, like Denver yesterday, goes into Tampa, and Tampa doesn't have Vita Vea. Tampa doesn't have half their secondary. Tampa's, struggling to play the run. And New Orleans and Denver wanted to run the football. Bo Nix got a little bit better. I think on paper, it's one thing when we're looking at teams in March, April, and May, but now we've got 3 weeks of hard data. Dallas can't stop the run, so you've got to lower their power rankings. I mean, Baltimore can't play pass defense in the fourth quarter. I mean, they almost let a game slip away that they had easily control of. I mean, who thought Sam Darnold was going to be this good? So I think, to me, a lot of this is reflective of the offseason creates so much chaos and so much uncertainty that we assume that these teams are going to be where they were, and this is proof in the pudding that they're not. I mean, look, there's 980 on the Bengals. I mean, if the Bengals lose to the Commanders tonight, which I don't think will happen, I mean, this contest could be over by week 8.
By week 8, could be over by week 6 at this point if the Bengals go out tonight. I'm somebody who, in my personal league, I have the Bengals winning tonight, so I kind of need that. But as it pertains to the upsets that we're seeing, I think some of it is really down to offensive line play. We saw the offensive line for the Cleveland Browns, frankly, just is not good at all. The New York Giants were able to pressure Deshaun Watson 27 times. That's 57% yesterday. They were all over him, and something that maybe the books can't collaborate or really quantify just how good some of these players are that are coming into the league. Malik Neighbors, again, double-digit targets, double-digit receptions, ran all over, or caught all over rather, yet the Cleveland Browns yesterday. So that's definitely something that maybe is hard to compute maybe going into the season. And the same thing could be applied.
Harrison, that game there, that game there was, I thought that 6.5 was way too many points, because if you really watch Cleveland and paid attention, they played really poorly in week 1. They go to Jacksonville, and they don't play much better in Jacksonville. They have one drive in the game. They score a touchdown, and then they were able to control the clock for about 4 minutes, 6 minutes in the fourth quarter. But Jacksonville just basically lost that game. And to me, I thought the Giants, even though the Giants aren't any good, I mean, the Browns are offensively, Deshaun Watson is atrocious, and you nailed it on their offensive line. Like, what happened in that game was there was sharks in the water. The Giants knew that Cleveland, that he can't throw the ball. He can't make good decisions. They knew the offensive line was horrible, and they just kept pressuring him. I mean, they just kept pressuring him. And in spite of all this, it's 21-15, and Cleveland has a chance with the ball back to win the game, and they can't do it. So I agree with you, but I think, to me, the Cleveland's a perfect example. We thought they were going to be better offensively. They're just not.
Yeah, it's unbelievable. Cleveland got gifted 7 points. First play of the game, Giants fumble the kickoff. Next play in the game, Deshaun Watson finds Amari Cooper in the end zone for a pass, which was a beautiful catch, by the way. And I'm thinking, as a Giant fan, I'm thinking to myself, oh, well, wrap this one up. I don't need to engage in this one anymore because I've already seen the Giants so far this season, and I've seen Daniel Jones. But, yeah, you're right. They just continued to pressure Deshaun Watson, sacked him 8 times yesterday. And while we're all going to point the finger at Deshaun Watson for how bad he's been, and he's been bad. He's really been bad. But at a certain point, I think we also look at Kevin Stefanski? Like, we know this offensive line is bad. What are they going to do to make sure that Watson has more time in the pocket or draw up something that's going to make it easier for him to be a better quarterback? I look at last night's game with the Kansas City Chiefs, and they were talking about how much Andy Reid involves the tight end or running back in chipping those rushers on the outside. It feels like whether it's Deshaun Watson or if it's the offensive scheme, they haven't figured out if you have a bad offensive line or if you have injured players on your offensive line, it is what it is. This is week 3 now. You know what you have. For them not to be able to counter that or be prepared to counter that in a better fashion, Michael, I think that's what's surprising me so far.
I think they were. I think, to me, when it's on the quarterback, when he sees a certain blitz coming in a certain direction, he's got to check it, and then he's got to throw the ball to the guy that's hot, or he's got to protect himself. I mean, and that's where Watson doesn't really have any command of it. Look, they missed Bill Callahan tremendously. They let him go to the Tennessee Titans. He played with those backup linemen last year, and they played more effectively. They don't have Nick Chubb. They couldn't run the football. We finally saw the Giants' defensive line take over. But this is a Deshaun Watson issue as much as anything, Grace. I mean, the guy can't make a throw. He's inaccurate with the football. He wasn't any good last week. It's 3 weeks in a row. Now, when they won, everybody backs off. Look, I'm a Watson fan. I've always been a Deshaun Watson guy. I thought the Browns should have drafted him when he came out. But since he's come back from the suspension, since he's left Houston, since Will Fuller's not around, he's not played well. It's just a fact. He's now played 15 games, and he's not getting any better, Grace.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, he was blitzed on 56% of his dropbacks, and the worst stat there was sacked 7 times. But 3 more games I want to squeeze in here to this segment. Bo Nix leading the Broncos to a 26-7 win over the Bucs as a 6-point underdog. The Rams rallying from a double-digit deficit to beat the Niners 27-24 as a 6.5-point dog. Obviously, lots of injuries there, but Sean McVay avoiding that first 0-3 start as a head coach or OC. And then Andy Dalton throwing 3 touchdowns to lead the Panthers past the Raiders 36-22 for their first win of the season. Out of those 3, Michael, which one stands out to you?
Well, the Rams coming back. I mean, the 49ers had to do things to lose the game, and they did. Jake Moody misses a field goal, which would have made it a 2-score game. The Rams wouldn't have been able to get back in it. You know, Roddy Bell drops 2 key passes, 1 huge key at the end, late in the game, which would have been an easy field goal for the win, and the Niners could have ran out the clock and won at 27-24. Huge drop. They give up a special teams return. I mean, they're up by 10 points with 6 minutes to go in the fourth, and if you took the Niners and laid the 6.5, you're thinking, okay, we got to get this one. You got a chance, but they just couldn't close it out. You know, the Niners' injuries certainly play a factor. I think that was an issue. Look, I think Carolina played much better with Andy Dalton at quarterback, but I thought the Raiders were horrendous on offense. I thought the Raiders were bad on defense. I mean, I think the Raiders thought this was going to be a walk in the park. I think that happens to teams. I think it really does. And I thought Denver did a really good job of understanding the situation they were in, and Bo Nix actually got better, Grace. So I think to me that was part of it, Harrison. I think that Bo Nix certainly improved from week 1 to week 3, whereas Caleb Williams, we haven't seen that improvement yet because the poor kid is getting the crap beat out of him. He's getting hit on every single play.
Yeah, that's for sure. Bo Nix finally getting his first win, and a lot of people were bemoaning his average depth of target yesterday. He definitely had some impressive plays, and even getting out and running yesterday was impressive. But I just want to take a moment to also talk about somebody who was really impressive yesterday. He's on the Broncos as well. Pat Surtain is locking down number 1 wide receivers left and right. And if you're looking for the bettors out there, particularly in the prop market, if there's a number 1 wide receiver going against the Broncos, bet his under, please. Yesterday, Mike Evans, 3 targets, 2 receptions, 17 total yards. His number was at 64 and a half. That was 17 total yards. You go back to week 2, shut down George Pickens, 29 yards on 4 targets. Go back to week 1, 4 targets, 3 receptions on 29 yards for DK Metcalf. We can talk about Bo Nix all we want. But if Pat Surtain is going to continue to shut down people like this, he's taking number 1 wide receivers out of the game. I think we also have to look at that as well. Give Bo Nix credit. He got to win. But it's not necessarily him that's being maybe the most responsible person for the Broncos' victory.
Yeah, Patrick Surtain, Bo Nix, they both look great, and they helped Sean Payton to a 7-0 record against Todd Bowles in the regular season. So definitely feels like Peyton has his number there. He's also beaten him with 4 different quarterbacks at this point. So different divisions, same problems. All right, coming up next, we're going to get some bookmaker insights. Carl Johnson joins the show with his reaction to the NFL and college football weekends. You're listening to the VSiN Morning Line.
In the heart of downtown Las Vegas, a sports oasis awaits. Stadium Swim, the ultimate outdoor amphitheater, built for the ultimate sports fan, with a colossal screen that brings the game closer than ever. Reserve a daybed, private cabana, or lounge in the center of it all. 6 pools to dive into as the game heats up. And the best part, there's never an off-season. Open 365 days a year. Stadium Swim, it's always spectator season.
Looking for the ultimate sports betting podcasts? VSiN has got you covered. With a wide range of podcasts covering every major sport, we're here to help you make smarter bets every season. The Baseball Betting Show with Greg Peterson gives you daily insights into finding value on each day's MLB card. And check out Long Shots, where we deep dive into the world of golf betting, providing you with expert insights to help you bet every tournament. Find all of these podcasts and more at VSiN.com/podcasts or your favorite podcast platform.
watching the VSiN Morning Line right here on VSiN, the Sports Betting Network.
Welcome back into the VSiN Morning Line as we continue our recap of Week 3 of the NFL season, Week 4 of the college football season. And with that, we welcome in our first guest of the day, Carl Johnson. You can find him at Jack Johnson on Twitter. He is a sportsbook director of the Beau Rivage, and he joins us on the Progressive guest line now. Carl, good morning to you. Thank you for being here with us. Before we get into the specifics of this upcoming week and the past weekend, what were some of the biggest decisions your book had to face this weekend in both the NFL and college football?
Yeah, well, good morning, Grace. Good to be here. Good to see you guys. Yeah, so look, for us and for several books throughout the country, you know, this was a slower weekend for us with college football. You know, I think it was set up basically with Alabama and Georgia being off. You know, we get a lot of fans in here from those two schools, but we had a packed house. They just wasn't you know, our handle was down a little bit, just wasn't getting those big action bets like we normally do. But so some good decisions for us. Obviously, the LSU UCLA game. You know, we get bet LSU pretty good here. With UCLA keeping this thing fairly close at 34-17. They helped us there. That was a good one for us. The Auburn-Arkansas game, Arkansas was a good outcome for us. And then, you know, in the Ole Miss game, the game itself, they bet us Ole Miss, so they got us a little bit there. But the total on the game helped soften that. It fell under the 68. I think it fell 65. So that was all good for us. The bad decisions in college for us was that USC Michigan game. You know, they bet us pretty good there. Michigan +4, they cover. And then, like I said, the Ole Miss game itself was bad for us. And then the Colorado Baylor game. I mean, wow, what a finish! I mean, that was. That worked against us there with those guys scoring late in the game to tie it up, send it into overtime. And then on the NFL side, you know, yesterday kind of a quiet day. Also, the Texans-Vikings game. You know, the Vikings. It was a good decision for us. Them blowing out the Texans 34-7. I didn't see that coming. Eagles Saints, another one there. You know, we get bet the Saints all the time. A good outcome for us with the Eagles getting the money there. And then the Denver Tampa Bay game. You know, just kind of out of nowhere. I mean, we get a lot of Tampa Bay play here. You know, and the Broncos putting it on them pretty good, 26-7. Last night's outcome, the Chiefs Falcons. You know, they had just pounded us with Chiefs money early. We got some Falcons late money, but the Chiefs take the money there.
Carl, let's go back to college real quick. The game of the week, I'm going to be at it. Your boy, our man Bill Berman, he's going to be at it. The Georgia-Alabama game. Talk about the line and where you expect this line to go when Saturday kickoff at 7:30. I think everybody's going to be at this game. You coming up?
Yeah, wow. No, I got to work, but I sure would love to be there with the great Bill Berman and you. I mean, I know you guys are going to have a good time. So for us, look, those two schools carry a lot of weight here. I mean, we're right in the middle of the SEC, as you know. They were both off. They tend to be off every time they play each other. We're going to open here Georgia 2.5, 49.5. Michael, if that number holds, I believe now. I'm an old man, and my memory sometimes leaves me, but I believe that'll be the first time since like 2007 that Bama's been a home dog. So I actually believe that this line will probably move down a little bit, so it should be interesting.
Carl, let's move over to the NFL. We got a game going down tonight, or two games rather yet, Monday Night Football. Where are you seeing most of the action in the two contests?
Yeah, so we're going to need the Jaguars tonight, Harrison. They're betting us the Bills pretty good. We're at 5.5, 45.5. And actually, to be honest with you, both of these lines have been pretty stale for us. Hadn't had a whole lot of movement in the game or the total. The Washington and the Bengals game, we're balanced right now, unless we'll probably get some Bengals action come in today that'll probably decide what we need. But we're pretty balanced there. We got a lot of people. Look, Washington, with Jaden Daniels, I mean, he carries a lot of weight. They like him, so that's taken some of the sting out of the fans here always betting Burrow. You got two Heisman LSU quarterbacks going at each other, so it's going to be fun. But we probably won't know who's going to need there until closer to kick.
Yeah, I was about to ask, with two LSU former quarterbacks in that game, are you seeing any action to the over? I would imagine fans, that's probably what they would be rooting for.
Yeah, they Grace, they tend to bet us overs. So I'm sure we're probably going to need the unders here just if we stay to form. But you never know. I mean, I think this game is more on the high scoring side of things. If I was to bet it, and I may bet it. If I was to bet it right now, I think I would probably take the 7.5. I like the way Washington's coming up. I mean, they're not the better team here, but that's a key number. That's a bunch of points, and should be fun to watch.
Carl, how about the other game, Buffalo and Jacksonville? Jacksonville's 0-2, desperate. They got to go to Houston on a short week after this game. They got the Monday night game. They basically could be 2-0. I mean, they had a chance to beat Miami, didn't do it. Had many opportunities to beat Cleveland, couldn't do it. What's the action on this game?
Yeah, so we're heavy Bills. We're gonna need the Jags tonight. That 5.5 number. Look, anytime I see that 5.5 number, I'm always on the, as a bettor, because I like to bet. I'm just like the public sometimes when it comes to this. I like to bet the games too to watch, but I just don't like the number as far as the 5.5. But we're heavily bet Bills, Mike.
Carl, on this season, when you look at underdogs of 5.5 points or more, they're 13-2 against the spread with 9 straight-up wins. What's been your reaction to this alarming stat to start this season? How are you seeing that reflected in the books?
Yeah, I mean, it's not so much the number itself. I mean, look what happened last week, Harrison. I mean, you had 11 dogs win last week. 9 of them won outright. I mean, it's a season of parity. I mean, it's hard when you start looking at your power ratings, it's hard to pick a team and say, well, they're their better team, So, those stats, I don't follow those stat lines a whole lot. It's best to kind of just take, forget what you seen last week, to be honest with you. It's best just to have a fresh look every week.
Going off of that, we're seeing, as you mentioned, Carl, so much parity in the NFL. How have you been adjusting your power ratings?
Yeah, so, I've been trying to have a real conservative approach this is my personal power ratings, okay? This is the things that I track for my betting purposes. I'll give you a perfect example. Philadelphia and the Saints yesterday. I'm not going to move the Saints at all. I mean, if anything, I thought it was a dangerous week for them coming off a big win at Dallas. I did a show yesterday with the ESPN Baton Rouge guys, that I was looking to see how the Saints would react after a big victory at Dallas, and look, I mean, they didn't win the game, but they hung in there. They didn't score 40+ points like they've been doing every week, but I won't move that. I won't move them at all, but I'm definitely going to be adjusting, and I'll do my adjustments after tonight's game. I'll definitely be adjusting Dallas and Miami down. And then, there's some teams out there that are starting to get some love. I mean, look at the Steelers. I mean, I think you got to start moving them up. They've earned it a little bit. The Vikings, I had both of those teams way down in my power rankings before the season started. So, they're getting some love right now from me.
We have less than a minute here to go. So I just want to ask about your college power ratings as well, because as the season goes on, I think we're starting to see the discrepancy between the top tier of teams and then kind of the middle of the tier top. Who do you have as your top 4-10, let's say.
Yeah, so I can tell you, I mean, I like Texas #1, and my second team, which is right there next to Texas, is Ole Miss. You know, Bama gets the love. I mean, they haven't lost a beat, but I've got Texas, Ole Miss at the top, followed by Bama, Ohio State, Georgia. So, and then Tennessee's coming up. Your school.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, definitely a coming out party for Tennessee this past weekend. All right, Carl Johnson, Sportsbook Director of the Beau Rivage. Thanks so much for joining us.
All right, guys. Have a good one. See you later, Mike.
A new football season means a new lineup on VSiN. Start your day with sharp betting analysis.